I never thought the quiet suburb I lived in would be the backdrop to the most shocking night of my life. My name doesn't matter. Let's just say I'm in my mid-30s, married for 7 years, and until recently, I thought I had life mostly figured out. My husband, Daniel, works long hours in tech. We've settled into a rhythm. Shared dinners, weekend chores, polite kisses, and maybe real intimacy once or twice a month. It was fine. Until I met her. Carmen moved in next door 6 months ago. She was impossible to ignore. Mid-30s like me, with this natural confidence and a laugh that carried over the fence like music. I told myself I was just being friendly. Neighbors wave. Neighbors help each other out. But Carmen, she looked at me like I wasn't invisible. Like I wasn't just someone's wife. Our husbands had exchanged brief hellos, but it was Carmen and I who clicked. Garden talk turned into wine on the porch. She'd joke about her single life, how she missed companionship but not commitment. I listened a little too eagerly. Things with Daniel had been off for a while. He was always exhausted, glued to his laptop or half asleep on the couch. I tried to bring it up once. How we never really talked anymore, how I felt like we were just roommates. He nodded, apologized, and promised things would get better. But nothing changed. I stopped asking. Then came the storm. It was all over the news, the biggest one in years. Daniel was out of town for a conference, flying back the next day. I spent the morning prepping. Flashlights, candles, extra blankets. Carmen messaged around noon. Hope you're stocked up. If things get bad, you know where to find me. I told her the same. I meant it casually. Or I thought I did. By evening, the wind howled like something alive. The rain was sideways, slamming the windows. The power cut out just after 7. I lit candles, made tea on the gas stove, and curled up under a blanket. Around 8, a knock. My heart jumped. Carmen, soaked, holding a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Thought you might want company, she said with that grin. I hesitated. Just a second. Then I stepped aside. She dried off, wrapped herself in a spare throw, and we sat on the couch, legs tucked beneath us. The wine flowed. We talked about everything and nothing. Bad dates, favorite books, old mistakes. She told me I seemed lonely. I told her I didn't know what I was anymore. There was a silence. Not awkward, charged. The storm outside was nothing compared to what started stirring inside me. Her hand brushed mine. Not by accident. My breath caught, but I didn't pull away. I wish I could say I stopped it. I wish I could say I didn't want it. But as lightning lit up the room, I leaned into her, and the noise outside disappeared. The next morning, screamed through the trees, sunlight filtered through the blinds like nothing had happened. The only light came from flickering candles. I sat on the edge of the shadows on the walls, still wrapped in the blanket. Carmen and I were closer now, staring at the floor. Her leg pressed against mine. My phone buzzed. Neither of us moving. Daniel's flight had landed. The wine was nearly gone. He'd be home by noon. And I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. I typed a reply, deleted it, and set the phone down. Just sitting in a heavy silence, in the mirror, thick with tension. I couldn't even look around the room without feeling like I had shattered something invisible but vital. But my body was telling me something different. She didn't need to. My mind kept racing back to how good it felt to be seen. I wondered if she felt and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Guilty. I didn't flinch. Or maybe she was fine. My eyes just met hers, like and I saw it. Certainty. I envied that possibility. She wasn't questioning anything. I wished I could compartmentalize her gaze was what happened, but steady, file like it away under a mistake and forget. And I didn't. But I couldn't. Her hand slid down every little thing that morning. Fingers lingering on my wrist. The smell of my own shampoo made me flinch. Unsure the familiar sound of Daniel's keys in the bowl when he returned home triggered a jolt of dread in my chest. Giving me every chance to back away. He walked in with a tired smile. When our lips kissed my forehead like always, vanished, and dropped his suitcase. There was no storm, no husband, I hugged him tight, just heat. The kiss deepened back and looked at me funny, like he sensed something was off. This wouldn't happen again. Said I was just glad he was home. My hands moved on their own, talked about his face, and pretended like everything was the same. Her body pressed against mine. But I couldn't unfeel what I'd felt. Unfamiliar all I couldn't unknow what I'd done. Every sense felt electric. Over the next few days, the sound of thunder barely registered anymore. I was somewhere else Daniel entirely. Her touch was gentle but deliberate. Carmen traced my collarbone, my neck, blinds every movement intentional. I took alternate routes around the neighborhood just to avoid the chance of running into building for months. But I thought about her constantly. I forgot about the look in her eyes when she left. I forgot the promises I had made, had been the life I had built. All I knew was how alive I felt against the counter and asked if everything was okay. My name between kisses. Said work had been stressful. She wasn't careless. Said I hadn't been sleeping This wasn't about power or conquest. He offered to cook dinner. It was about connection, my back. Need, maybe that even loneliness only made it worse. I knew he didn't deserve this. It wasn't never romance. For all our distance and quiet something routines, I hadn't felt in years. He was still trying. When it ended, I was the one who broke anything for a long time. The worst part wasn't she rested her head on my shoulder. It was how easy it was to hide. Still unsteady. How nothing on the surface into the candlelight. We still brushed our teeth side by side. The reality began to return the salt, creeping in like mindless shows after the door. But now I was watching it all like a stranger in my own life. Looked at me, waiting for something to collapse. Asking a question she didn't say out loud. Then came the first crack. I couldn't answer found my sweater in the laundry. I didn't know what this meant. One I hadn't worn in weeks. Go, she said quietly. When I remembered leaving on the couch the night Carmen meet her eyes. He held it up, puzzled, wrapped the throw tighter around herself, this was missing, and walked to the door without another word. Off. Said I found it tucked behind the cushions. When the door shut, he nodded. The silence slowly, was unbearable. But I saw it. I was that alone flicker again. In his eyes. Only this time I wasn't the same. The beginning of something unraveling. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the blinds like nothing had happened. But everything had. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wrapped in the blanket from the night before, staring at the floor. My phone buzzed. Daniel's flight had landed. He'd be home by noon. I typed a reply, deleted it, and set the phone down. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't even look around the room without feeling like I had shattered something invisible but vital. Carmen didn't message. She didn't need to. The silence was its own kind of message. I wondered if she felt the same. Shaken, unsure, guilty. Or maybe she was fine, just moving on like it meant nothing. I envied that possibility. I wished I could compartmentalize what happened, file it away under a mistake and forget. But I couldn't. Every little thing that morning felt different. The smell of my own shampoo made me flinch. The familiar sound of Daniel's keys in the bowl when he returned home triggered a jolt of dread in my chest. He walked in with a tired smile, kissed my forehead like always, and dropped his suitcase by the stairs. I hugged him tight. Too tight. He pulled back and looked at me funny, like he sensed something was off. Smiled. Said I was just glad he was home. We made coffee, talked about his trip, and pretended like everything was the same. But I couldn't unfeel what I'd felt. I couldn't unknow what I'd done. Over the next few days, guilt became a second skin. I flinched when Daniel touched me, jumped when he asked basic questions. Carmen didn't appear. Her blinds stayed shut. I took alternate routes around the neighborhood just to avoid the chance of running into her. But I thought about her constantly. About the look in her eyes when she left. About how easy it had been to lose control. One night, Daniel leaned against the counter and asked if everything was okay. Lied. Said work had been stressful. Said I hadn't been sleeping well. He offered to cook dinner and rubbed my back. That kindness only made it worse. He didn't deserve this. He never had. For all our distance and quiet routines, he was still trying. I was the one who broke it. The worst part wasn't the act itself. It was how easy it was to hide. How nothing on the surface had changed. We still brushed our teeth side by side. Still passed each other the salt. Still watched mindless shows after dinner. But now I was watching it all like a stranger in my own life, waiting for something to collapse. Then came the first crack. Daniel found my sweater in the laundry. One I hadn't worn in weeks. One I remembered leaving on the couch the night Carmen came over. He held it up, puzzled. "Didn't you say this was missing?" Froze. Laughed it off. Said I found it tucked behind the cushions. He nodded slowly. But I saw it. That flicker in his eyes. The doubt. The beginning of something unraveling. Daniel didn't bring up the sweater again, but I could feel the shift. Something between us changed. Subtle at first, like longer pauses between his words, more frequent glances when he thought I wasn't looking. He became quiet, more observant. I started double-checking everything, my phone, my words, my tone. But the truth has a way of clinging to the air no matter how tightly you try to bottle it. A week passed. Then two. Carmen and I hadn't spoken. No texts, no accidental run-ins. It was like she vanished from my world. And yet I couldn't escape her shadow. I thought maybe that night would fade, blur into memory. Something I could file away under mistakes I never talk about. But then, one evening after dinner, Daniel sat me down. No warning, no build-up. Just his eyes fixed on mine with a calm I didn't trust. "Are you seeing someone?" he asked. I blinked, heart punching against my ribs. My mouth opened but nothing came out. I wanted to deny it. Wanted to act offended. But I couldn't. I just stared at him. That silence was its own answer. He nodded, jaw clenched. I knew it. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew. Finally spoke. "It was once. It wasn't planned. It didn't mean anything," he cut in. "Then why does it feel like everything I believed in just cracked? Felt like I was shrinking. I didn't plan it. Just happened. You were gone. I was alone. I felt unloved," he said. "Neglected." I didn't answer. Couldn't. "I trusted you," he whispered, standing up, pacing the room now. "I thought we were just going through a rough patch. I didn't think you'd cheat. And with her." That hit harder than anything. I realized then he knew who it was. Maybe not for certain, but enough to say her. I could see it in the way his shoulders tensed. Maybe he saw us talking one time too many. Maybe he just put the pieces together. Either way, the damage was done. He didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. He just packed a bag and left for the night. Said he needed space. I sat alone on the floor, numb, the weight of it all pressing down until I could barely breathe. The next day, Carmen messaged me for the first time since that night. Just one line. "Are you okay?" I didn't reply. Daniel came home 2 days later. Talk. Not about healing, not about fixing things. Just about logistics. About time. About space. We were civil. Cold. Like people closing a deal, not two people who once shared a life. Weeks passed. We tried counseling. It didn't stick. Some breaks don't heal. Some betrayals keep bleeding under the surface no matter how tightly you bandage them. He moved out in the spring. Kept the house. The quiet wasn't comforting anymore. It was loud with everything we never said. I haven't seen Carmen since. I don't want to. Every time it rains now, I remember that night. The storm didn't destroy my house. It destroyed everything else.